In an apology tweet, Tory MP Heather Wheeler said, while speaking at a conference on Thursday, I made an inappropriate remark that does not reflect my actual view. I apologise for any offence caused. Really? Really? So what does Heather Wheeler, Tory MP of poshest South Derbyshire, actually think of Blackpool and Birmingham and god-awful places like that? Curious minds are keen to find out. Apologising. I mean, this regime seems to apologise so much, it doesn't actually mean anything anymore. It's just a noise they make, like lowing. You know, it's just something that they throw out. Oh, yeah, we're very sorry about, whatever we just did. Sorry. Blackpool councillor Lynn Williams asked whether Wheeler's apology is sufficient and said, you said it, you thought it. Tory MP Heather Wheeler also apologised in 2018 after an email she sent to a homeless charity 3 months before she became a homeless minister was leaked, in which she branded rough sleepers in her constituency as, quotes, the traditional type, old tinkers, knife cutters wandering through. Heather Wheeler is a Conservative Member of Parliament. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. If you have half an hour and you wish to be amused, then can I point you in the direction of one of the podcasts that I do, which is called The Nick Abbot Habit, in which I take old shows, snip out the funny parts, and smush them together in a half-hour podcast which comes out on a Monday. It's just concentrated amusement. I think you'll love it. Ask for it by name on an internet near you. Nick Abbot Habit.
Studio calls flashing up on the indicator.
Yes, this studio call in Battersea is a bloke called Brian. Brian.
Hello?
Yes, Brian.
Yeah, back in the worst place of the world.
Brian, could you get a little bit closer to the phone? I mean, come into the same room as it would be a good idea.
Can you hear me now?
There you are.
I don't know about Enfield.
What?
About the worst place in the world.
Worst place in the god-awful place, Enfield.
Yeah, my friend died about 5 years ago.
In Enfield?
5-6 years ago. No, he died in Battersea, but he was originally from Enfield.
Right.
He supported Tottenham. We went out there in a coach. We hired a coach. There was about 30, 40 of us. And there was no one there. There's big wide pavements.
Yeah.
Big, wide streets.
Mm-hmm.
But there wasn't a car going there. Couldn't see anybody there. After the funeral, I went in got back in the coach. Well, better get back. Posted, stopped there, get a couple of beers. I bought 2 cans of beer.
Couple of beers. Booze. Yes.
Yeah, and there was no one in the shop.
Well, that sounds like a great place. Big wide streets and no one on them. Yeah. Terrific.
There was no one there, no cars. No
people. That doesn't sound god awful to me, Brian. That sounds like heaven on earth.
Oh no.
Yeah, not to your taste though.
I took the 2 beers. I got on the coach, all shouting at me, Brian, we're going. Get on the coach.
Right.
And I thought, God, I could clean that shop out.
Well, that certainly is a riveting story. Thanks a lot, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Enfield, off his list, on mine. That sounds great. Big wide roads and nobody on them. Like in the good old days. Andy says, hi Nick, can't we send Boris to Rwanda on this first pilot flight? And just leave him there to settle forever. And by pilot flight, he means the first flight going to Rwanda, which may or may not leave next week. My guess is not. It doesn't really matter whether it does leave this week or not. The first one, maybe the second one, and then it won't be news anymore, and that will be job done. They just need to send a couple of people over there, and then they'll say, there you are, you see, it worked. And ignore any of the people that actually arrive in small boats on our beaches. because that will now be nothing to do with Rwanda. The Rwanda policy has worked before it's even begun, because Priti Patel says so. It doesn't seem to be for any purpose other than keeping their fans happy by making other people's lives more miserable than their own, by which method they'll feel, like they're getting somewhere. It's kind of sad, really, but, there we are. Andrew texts, Dear Nick, how do we know that Prince Charles was talking about the Rwanda policy? He might have been calling Boris appalling. Good point. Dean says, how many... let me just see where I am on this. I've still got 6 pages of these to go. How am I ever going to do this? Dean says, hi Nick, great weather today in Norfolk, wherever that is. That's him saying that, not me. He says, I thought I saw Michael Fabricant today in Norfolk, but when I got closer it was an Afghan hound. Leave the Conservatives alone, he says, they're doing their best. Well, I believe that that's actually true. This is them doing their best.
Oh no.
Can you imagine what it would be like if they weren't actually trying very hard? 0345 6060 973. Sheen. Francis.
Nick, how are you?
Good, thanks.
2 things. One is a story that obviously has been all over your news, your programme, and one that I just noticed today, which I thought was
Francis.
Yeah?
Very difficult to hear what you're saying. Is the phone near your mouth?
It is now. Can you hear me?
Well, let's try. Press on.
Okay. The South Derbyshire politician. I had to be in Derby quite recently, and I travelled up there by train. And something I found fascinating, because I know people in London are always often mocked about not knowing anything about, places outside of London. And so Derby had popped up on my radar in terms of, I think it was one of 3 or not many more than 3 places given like a serious amount of funds recently for an accelerated levelling up programme because it was seen to be a bit backward or what have you. So I thought, well, the civic leaders in Derby, as there are anywhere else, and, the train station is a quite likely place someone would arrive in Derby from. And you would think, therefore, that civic leaders would want to show off their it is a city, when you come out of Derby train station. Facing Derby train station, there's a parade of about 5 shops. And of the 5 shops, one is an off-licence, one is a chippy, and one is a massage parlour.
Oh, lovely.
Disgusting.
And I thought, well...
I mean, what else do you need in life? You need booze and chips and, a little massage.
It's called Bubbles, so anybody who supports West Ham must be chuckling.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But I think you're somewhat mistaken, though, because it's South Derbyshire that person is responsible for, and Derby is, as far as I'm aware, not in South Derbyshire. It's places like Aston-on-Trent and Ashby-de-la-Zouch, places like that. Sounds very, very posh to me.
In Leicestershire. There's a cycle to it.
Right.
That's definitely in Leicestershire. But anyway, that's just like a little hello to the civic leaders of Derby.
Right.
Whatever that. And the other thing I saw today, which was like a news story, which I thought was hysterical. It was covered, I believe, in the Independent newspaper, so you can check this. And French journalists have found that Putin travels with people.
Oh.
Part of whose role
No. Yeah, I know what you're going to say, and I know where you're going to go. And even wearing gloves, I don't want to go there. But it seems a bit, as bizarre as anything else that he does. Yeah, they're carrying his, back with him wherever he goes. Maybe he collects it. Collects it in jars and, has special wings built on his homes for his, his collection. He's probably got favourites and, I don't know. Got no idea. It's a mystery to me. But all right, thanks a lot, Francis. 0345 6060 973. Gary tweets, Nigel Farage is arranging for Buckingham Palace to be moved to Rwanda in protest of the Prince's opinion. Yeah, I mean, do we really expect that the members of the royal family express no opinion of any kind whatsoever? Even if they do seem to be what most people in this country, what most decent people in this country would be thinking. Sue says, I think that caller that you had yesterday who said it was sunny in Glasgow was just spreading fake news. Fake news. When I went for a week's holiday to Glasgow, or just outside, I arrived in heavy rain and it didn't stop raining heavily for the whole time that I was there. Morning, noon and night. Rain, rain, rain and more rain. I've never known weather like it, says Sue. Not before, not then, not since. I didn't even know weather could get that bad. On the plus side, it was a great book reading weather, but that was about all it was good for. Well, that and filling the lochs. The lochs. Beautiful country despite all that, says Sue. Well, I think that last sentence there came a little bit too late there, Sue. You've blotted your copybook there. Joe texts, not Joe texts. Joe texts. You're right. He started with Warsaw, then Heroes.
Rock and roll!
Oh, we're talking about David Bowie again. Back to where we started. 0345 6060 973. Glasgow. Hello, Eric.
Hi, Nick. Good evening.
Eric.
You were talking something to do with presenting something new for your show earlier on.
Was I?
You were before you cut the news. And I've got a wee idea for you.
Okay.
I think you'd be great at something like Mock the Week. Remember, as you, Dennis, did Mock the Week? I think you'd be good at that.
I don't know what mock... I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
What's Mock the Week, Hugh Dennis? He does a lot of takes on... he does voiceovers for people, predominantly the royal family and all the politicians. You'd be fantastic at it.
Right. I very much doubt it, Eric. I know my limits.
Go for it.
And no, I won't. It's a no from me. And furthermore... No. But thanks for the good suggestion there, Eric. No, I don't wish to do television. I wish to do radio. Always have done. I've never had the slightest interest in being on TV. Neither would television want me to be on TV. I think that's probably absolutely true. But cheers, Eric. Appreciate it. Matt says, we always take the mickey out of the French, but I bet they wouldn't have put up with this much rubbish off Macron. They'd have hog-tied that bag of grease in number 10 months ago and sent him packing. I believe that's probably true. Yeah, they wouldn't have put up with this, the French. They'd be pulling up paving stones and chucking them at gendarmes by now. And they absolutely, certainly and totally wouldn't have put up with a French government telling them that they couldn't protest about anything. I mean, can you imagine that? No, is the answer. Gordon says, check out Peter Glaze and Jan Hunt covering Bowie's golden years on Crackerjack from 1976. Talk about a definitive version. Why would they do that? Peter Glaze, wasn't he the old guy who wore glasses? And Jan Hunt, I don't know who that is, covering Bowie's golden years on Crackerjack. Crackerjack pencil from 1976. Well, I've never heard of the like. And I'm thinking about it right now, and it doesn't sound like it would be good. Matt says, always take... No, I've read that one. It's about the, the French not putting up with any of this nonsense. Wouldn't put up with any of this nonsense, Bodge.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Yeah, you wouldn't even be thinking about inflicting this on the French. Gary tweets, Game of Thrones. That's it. Game of Thrones. That's what I was talking about earlier on. God, it seems like so long ago, doesn't it? Like hours and hours. Like days ago this show started. Game of Thrones. Took a while. Too many characters in Game of Thrones. I had no idea who was doing what to whom. Like they would introduce somebody and he would be the second cousin of someone called Targaryen. And then you wouldn't see them for like 5 episodes. And then they'd bring them back and you're supposed to remember who it is that they were doing before they disappeared. How can you remember that stuff? So I think perhaps with that in mind, the people that made the DVD of the first series, they put the like I said before, the pictures of all of the characters with their names underneath in the packaging of the DVD. Very clever. And by which method I could figure out who it was that was speaking, who they were speaking about, and who they'd recently either had sex with or killed. Or both. Tim emails, you referred to world beating as Trumpism. I refer to it as Gavin Williamsonism.
I just reckon we've got the very best people in this country, much better than the French have, much better than the Belgians have, much better than the Americans have. That doesn't surprise me at all, because we're a much better country than every single one of them.
Would you mind telling me what this is all about?
Don't ask me, dear. I only work here. 0345 6060 973. Archie texts, has Starmer formed an opinion on the rail workers' strike yet? Can he define a woman? Should we set up a royal commission to investigate what Starmer's policies actually are? Says Archie. Laura emails, why was the country who was the enemy never named in Top Gun 2? Oh, well, yeah, I noticed that as well. It annoyed me, says Laura. I want to know who the baddie is. Well, I think we all knew what they were saying, Laura. I mean, who did you immediately think they were talking about? Exactly. Aaron says, in the unlikely event that Bodger's career as a PM ever comes to an end, he could play the character Mr. Penguin from Batman Returns. They wouldn't need much in the way of makeup, prosthetics, or special effects. Mr. Penguin. Stockton-on-Tees. Hello, AJ.
Well, hiya, Nick. Thanks for having us.
AJ.
I've been listening to you talking about the EU and economics and how great it is. So I thought I'd put in an EU economics point. Nick, it's been 10 years since the Greek people were crushed under the blitzkrieg of German bank. And
Wait, back up. It's been 10 years since what?
The Greek people were crushed under the blitzkrieg of German banks.
The Greek people were crushed under the blitzkrieg of German banks. Is that what you just said?
Aye. They forced into austerity.
Blitzkrieg, right.
Aye. It's because they were Germans. It was just tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, still living in the Second World War. I get it.
It seems like he's not bothered.
Well, we had like 8 years of austerity. What did we do to deserve that?
We were in the EU.
No. Try again.
I don't know, Nick.
Well, who was in charge during those years of austerity?
Who's in charge?
Yeah. Can you think? Can you remember? Who was in charge when during those years of austerity? It wasn't a blitzkrieg, mind you. It was pretty bad.
God knows who was in charge, Nick.
We're still trying to recover that. You can't think of who was in charge?
I never bothered with politics before the
right.
referendum.
Oh, okay. All right. Nice try, AJ. 0345 6060 973. Stop watching the History Channel. It's not doing you any favours. Broadsword calling Danny Boy. Broadsword calling Danny Boy. Come in, Danny Boy. Over. Sanj texts, please, please, please leave Bojo alone. He's doing his best. Everything he's doing for the country has been robust. All guidelines were followed. It's all been world-beating, and don't forget, he's taken all the right decisions. All the big decisions he got right, and he followed the rules.
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times. I followed the ministerial guidance at all times. I followed the ministerial guidance at all times. I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
0345 6060 973. It was a blitzkrieg, did you hear? There was a guy who wrote, I probably haven't got time for it in this hour, but there was a bloke who wrote in the Mail about we must support the Prime Minister, otherwise we're going to lose Brexit. And like I said at the beginning, with every passing day, they seem to be getting more and more desperate because they feel that their little scheme is coming to naught. The reason that they're getting desperate is that the public is beginning to twig. Even those people that voted for Brexit are beginning to think that, hang on a minute, it's been years. We've been out for ages, and all we see is negative. Where's the positive? Can you think of one single positive thought? They have an entire ghostly hat stand whose single job it is to come up with a Brexit positive, and he still can't think of a single blooming thing.
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
He doesn't know anything. Not one thing. And so the desperation on the part of the people that want it to happen for whatever reason, tax. is that the outcome is that they are flailing around ever more vigorously in desperate fear that the promised land is being taken away from them. Very, very curious behaviour. I mean, there was so much of it today. It was like a blitzkrieg. It was like being under a blitzkrieg from a German bank. Did you hear? Can you imagine? So this guy wrote this massive long thing in the Mail about how much we must support the bodge, otherwise we might lose the glory that is Brexit, without mentioning a single thing that was positive about Brexit. I mean, he just went on and on and on. And thought, I might get to that in a minute because it was like so much material, just in a brief 3-hour show. How will I ever be able to get through it? Let's have Bristol, Max. Oh, Max.
Hello.
Yes, Max, just in time.
Hello, Nick.
Yes, Max.
I was just intrigued to know why it is that Priti Patel's initiative to send people to Rwanda was brought about when you think about it. Her family was left the Indian continent because they were persecuted, and they went to Uganda.
Right, Uganda. Now, Uganda to Rwanda is a shorter distance than Uganda to Britain, so curious that she should end up here.
Exactly, but she went to Uganda. Her family went to Uganda as some sort of sanctuary, and then Idi Amin took over Uganda, and so they had to leave Uganda, which is, don't get me wrong, it's sad, and it's a terrible thing.
Yeah, it's a sad situation.
Yeah, I know, but given the choices they had then.
Max, are you trying to swallow your phone or use it to communicate?
Sorry, am I too close?
I don't know. It sounds like you're talking through a sock.
I beg your pardon. But what I'm saying is, in essence, is why did her family come to the UK when they could have just gone next door to Rwanda?
Excellent question, Max. And it's the kind of question that will get you 10 years in jail and an unlimited fine. I think you are, at this moment, being a nuisance.
Yeah, I am. I recognise that.
Yeah. All right. Good question, though. Excellent work. Thanks a lot, Max. Be careful. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, it is. It is curious that many people who are defending government policy, who have come from other countries, are seemingly of the opinion that, it's okay for me to come in, but after me, the drawbridge goes up. Because, otherwise we'll be swamped. Tim says, in 1980, I hitched across America, during which time I stopped off in Chicago and decided to go to the theatre to see The Elephant Man. Imagine my surprise when John Merrick entered stage left and I realised it was David Bowie playing a part. It made my day. By the way, is there life on Mars? No. And furthermore, there is no dark side of the moon. As a matter of fact, it's all dark.
Rock and roll!
Benjamin says, Rwanda shares its northern border with Uganda. Educational, this show, no?
No.
Laura says, if Tom Cruise is too American for you, just see a film with Hugh Grant to cool off. He is chokingly British. No. It's not that Tom Cruise is too American, it's just the film was too American. Him and his love interest were the only likeable characters in that entire film. Everybody else was really gratingly awful. There wasn't a single positive, nice, warm character that you felt that you wanted to win. I actually wanted them all to die. That's an awful thing to say, isn't it? It's just a film. It's only made up. But, all of the other Americans were of the woo type, which just, I can't live with that. I am too constipatedly British for that. But, Tom Cruise, there's just something about Tom Cruise. That's why he's the number one film star in the world. You just root for him no matter what he does. Even, as I said before, if he's playing a serial killer. Go on, Tom. Give them what they're worth.
Some nobody.
0345 6060 973. You can text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Well, maybe you saw this article in the Mail. I mean, it was on the Mail online today. I wonder if it was actually in the print version today or whether they're going to put it out tomorrow. I cannot believe it. It just went on and on and on about how we must protect the glorious Brexit and the man who brought it to us, the magnificent Boris Johnson.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Yeah, otherwise we'll lose Brexit and we'll lose... I've got no idea. And neither does this bloke. I'll give you a taster of it. Daniel Johnson is his name, whose work I'm unfamiliar with, but I'm sure he is excellent in every regard. He wrote, "This week we have witnessed the emergence of the most dangerous threat to Britain's prosperity, democracy, independence since the defeat 3 years ago of that absurd crank Jeremy Corbyn." So, fighty start. That's quite alarming. The emergence of the most dangerous threat to Britain's prosperity, democracy and independence. Wow, that sounds really, really frightening. He says, on Monday night, no sooner had Boris Johnson narrowly survived the treacherous attempt to destroy his government with a vote of confidence than a coalition of counter-revolutionaries assembled to launch a multi-pronged assault. They have one key target: restaging the battle of Brexit that the rest of us thought had been decisively and painfully won 3 years ago. I mean, overdosing on the war references there, mate. Like this is a battle rather than an attempt by those who know better to keep us believing the lies that got us to where we are, which is a poorer, less influential, more insignificant little island obsessed with World War II because some of us can't think of a single thing we've won since. And we didn't even win that. We've just convinced ourselves that we did by gorging on the dambusters and 633 Squadron. He says the Prime Minister has been badly damaged by a Tory rebellion spearheaded not merely by backbenchers, but by some of his own ministers. No, the Prime Minister has been badly damaged by his own behaviour. He's a grown-up now. Is he ever going to take responsibility for his actions? He writes, smelling blood in the water, the Tory Remainer rear guard has joined forces, explicitly or otherwise, with opposition parties to overturn or at least water down Brexit, and with it everything that the Conservatives were elected to achieve. Water down Brexit. So what has concentrated Brexit brought us exactly? Can you think of anything? What is it that we're defending? And again, with the stupid war references. Joined forces. Blood in the water. What you like, Daniel Johnson? He says, in this they are supported by much of the unelected establishment. No! From swathes of the judiciary, the legal profession and the House of Lords to the infamous Whitehall blob that stymies ministerial plans, as well as the Remain-stream media that has never got over the shock of the 2016 referendum and obsessively peddles an anti-government, anti-Brexit narrative. Well, it's not a narrative. Anti-Brexit's not a narrative. It's just the restating of facts. I mean, there's so much there. The judiciary and the legal profession, for a start, exists to carry out the law, as written by Parliament, not to simply do what the dear leader thinks he'd like on any given day. And the Whitehall blob, that's the people that actually make the country work, whose job it is to alert ministers that they might be breaking the law. And as for the Remain-stream media, does he mean the Mail, for which he writes? Or the Telegraph, the two biggest newspapers in the land? Or the Sun? Or the Express, perhaps? Is he talking about the billionaire offshore foreign-owned press barons who dominate the news media in this country? Or is he talking about the BBC, which is run by an ex-Tory councillor and is overseen by one of the biggest donors to the Tory party? Is that the mainstream media he's talking about? Or is he just, like many of his ilk, just making up fantasy enemies in order to have somebody to express a fight against? The left-wing media. What left-wing media are these people talking about? You hear it so much. Whining victimhood. That every now and then there's a small pushback to the lies and the fake promises and the fantasies, which they can't stand because they know that a little light destroys their arguments. He says, just as Theresa May, a weak Prime Minister without a majority, was unable to pass her doomed Brexit deal, so now a weakened Boris Johnson is beset on all sides by the same anti-democratic forces. They literally had a vote, which is called democracy. And I think she was unable to pass her Brexit deal, he says, because of a certain Boris Johnson, who itched for power and saw his chance. He said, the legal system repeatedly delayed Brexit. Now that we have regained the right to control our borders, more people have come here in the last 6 months than in the 10 months to August of the previous year. Control our borders. Now that we have regained the right to control our borders, these same elements, bolstered by an immigration industry comprising charities and human rights agitators. Charities? No! These people are striving to thwart Home Office plans to stem the tide of illegal migrants by sending them for processing to Rwanda. You know, the legal system only delayed what the government was illegally trying to do. It's literally their job. And as for human rights agitators, which human right first would you like to give up? And as for the tide of illegal immigrants, they're people, not a tide. We are not being swamped, and they wouldn't be arriving illegally if the government had not shut down all legal ways of arriving. He said, of course, Britain faces stark problems, inflation and the risk of recession foremost among them, yet these headwinds, which the PM freely concedes are holding back recovery and reform, would not die down if he were removed. He says, you'll love this bit. Prepare yourself. He said, on the contrary, all the dynamism in British politics is still coming from Boris Johnson. Do me a favour. What dynamism? Apart from a yearning desire to stay in number 10, what else has he given? I mean, at this point, what's the value in continuing? But, you know, just as a science experiment, I'll carry on. This week's speech on home ownership offered a hope for up to 4 million people unable to get on the housing ladder, he said. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. I mean, the funds, as small as they are going to run out almost as soon as the scheme starts. It's just about getting another headline. It's another distraction. And those it promised to help won't be able to come up with a deposit. So they still won't be able to afford a home. And anyway, like I said before, the Thatcher Council House sell-off left almost half of those old council homes in the hands of private landlords. Big surprise, no? And the Help to Buy scheme that this government just used to funnel vast amounts of taxpayer money to developers who knew that they could throw up any old rubbish, safe in the knowledge that desperate people would buy them because the government was giving them our money. He said the PM also promised initiatives to cut back on red tape, much of it a legacy of the Brussels bureaucracy, and bring home the benefits of Brexit. Well, red tape has increased, not decreased, and it's increased massively. And there is no benefit to Brexit. Even the crown on pint glasses and the blue passports are things that we could have had when we were in the EU, and it is a mark of desperation that the government and their acolytes are waving those around as Brexit bonuses, because that's all they can come up with. He says none of this is likely to happen, however, if Boris is brought down in a fresh plot by Tory malcontents. perhaps after predicted by-election defeats in West Yorkshire and Devon later this month. He said that defeat in turn would usher in a coalition of chaos. Hey, we're back to that again. A coalition of chaos as opposed to this guy.
Peppa Pig World. Peppa Pig World has Peppa Pig
is the right answer. Very good, Bodge. Yeah, what would we do without him? A coalition of chaos. They're back to that again. Boris's defeat would usher in a coalition of chaos, he says, and with it, mark my words, the betrayal of Brexit and its ultimate undoing. You know, what with all the benefits of... no, still can't think of any. He says, with the drab Starmer unlikely to secure a majority on its own, the Liberal Democrats, the Greens and the SNP, Remainer zealots all, would be called together or singly to join a ragtag coalition. The threat to the Union, let alone Brexit, is clear. You know what? Boris Johnson himself is the biggest threat to the Union. I mean, Scotland and Northern Ireland are pulling away from the rest of us because of what he is doing. He said, hence the survival of Boris Johnson in number 10 is about more than the career of one politician. It is about respecting the decision of the British people, a decision made narrowly but definitively in the 2016 referendum and reaffirmed with a thumping mandate in the 2019 general election, and it was all based on lies. All of it. Nothing they promised has come true. It's like being offered two boxes, box A and box B. Now, you don't know what's in box A, so let me tell you. In box A, there's cash money and lots of it. In box B, there's a dead dog. Which box would you like? Without opening them. You just got to take my word on it. Box A with all the cash, or box B with the dead dog in it? You'd take box A, right? Well, turns out I lied to you about that. Box A is actually an IOU from you to me. You owe me money now. But you freely chose box A, so now you're stuck with it. And don't whine that I told you a lie about it, because it was a choice that you made freely. That is essentially what's happened to us about Brexit. We were sold a lie, and people voted on the basis of those lies. And now they're saying, well, you voted, so that's that. He says the counter-revolution has begun, from ex-prime ministers to the Whitehall blob, from courts to the television studios, from New York to Brussels. The forces ranged against the Prime Minister are legion. They would consign the country to pandemonium. Pandemonium. I looked it up in the dictionary. Pandemonium, defined as a wild and noisy disorder or confusion.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
It's a good working definition of the current Prime Minister. A wild and noisy disorder or confusion. That's him up and down. He says it's the fight of Boris's life, and he surely knows it. He must never see Brexit undone. It's one of the silliest articles I've ever read in a national newspaper. It would have to be done to be undone. And Brexit is not done, because the government can't agree what they signed and can't agree with their own deal, and they didn't do so even before the ink was dry. They negotiated a deal, they signed a deal, and the moment they did so, they said, well, this is a rubbish deal. Who negotiated and signed this? Brexit's not been done, nor will it ever be done. It's a mad fantasy dreamed up by those with bad intent as a way to pull the country away from the EU's tax avoidance clampdown and to set us alone and vulnerable as an island of decreasing power and significance off the coast of Europe. Is what I think, but obviously not what this bloke thinks, Daniel Johnson, who I'm sure is excellent in every regard apart from the pages that I've just read out. Maybe it was an accident. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
Yeah! Dude!
Let's have Thaxted. Hello, Joel.
Morning, Nick.
Joel.
Listening to that Johnson article just made my blood boil a little bit. Anyway, going off track a bit, let's talk Nadine Zahawi.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I've always noticed that he wears a badge on his suit that's got the letters TL on it, and I was just wondering what it meant. So there's a Yiddish terminology, which is Tucherslaffel, which in English terms means backside liquor.
Oh. Well, yeah. Okay. I'm pretty sure it doesn't mean that. I have an idea what it stands for, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't mean what I have in mind either. I think it's about the T levels. It's some exam thing that he's trying to push. Something like that, isn't it, Zaphod?
So obviously, but I know certainly, but. But obviously,
he's thinking. He's thinking about it. He'll come back to us when he's thought. Thanks a lot, Joel. Sheila texts, please don't say you didn't have a Spanish omelette whilst you were in Madrid. You could have pointed it out on a picture menu. I'm afraid I am going to have to say that I didn't have a Spanish omelette in Madrid, Sheila. Do they make Spanish omelettes in Spain? Patrick says, my money is on Michael Fabricant becoming... Well, we do seem to be living in an alternate reality, so at this point I wouldn't be surprised about anything. Patrick says, my money is on Michael Fabricant becoming the next Prime Minister. To be top banana, you first have to sport a silly haircut before you're allowed to do so, or say or even think silly stuff. Kim Jong-un, Trump and Johnson are all senior club members. Yeah, they do seem to have weird, like performatively weird hair.
You don't need to put all of that product in your hair. You just don't.
You just don't. Ease up on the product. Luke says, are we living in a surreal existence at the moment? Boris Johnson is the biggest buffoon to ever lead our country, and he's still there. It's one thing someone being fooled by a fooler like Johnson, but to be fooled constantly by the fooler and yet still let the fooler keep fooling you is utterly foolish. Yeah, it is kind of weird. Why is he still there? Why is he there in the first place? Seven Oaks. Hello, Mark.
Hi. I think Nigel Farage might be getting a bit hot and bothered about Brexit because he promised a referendum in 2026 on
I'm a
on
nutcase.
Brexit.
Yeah, he did. What he said was if it was 52-48, then it would be unfinished business.
Well, he did something else as well. In the Brexit Party manifesto, presumably to enable him to get a referendum more easily in the future, he said that if 5 million people signed a petition, there would be a referendum. And then 5 million people signed the Revoke Article 50 petition. So he accidentally promised another referendum on Brexit.
There is no evidence that Nigel Farage has ever asked for a second referendum.
We should have a second referendum. We should have a second referendum. We should have a second referendum.
Zero evidence that he has ever said that we should have a second referendum.
That chap on from the Mail, I think it was, saying that there was a resounding mandate from the last general election for Brexit. Well, there was an even bigger mandate for another referendum, because 53% of people voted for the second referendum party.
Well, that's true, yeah. So like 46%, something like that, voted for the Tories. And so by extension, everybody else voted for not the Tories, which is a bigger number.
Exactly. And the point is, this idea that would result in a mandate was the Leaver's own idea, because in the 2017 general election, they said there was a mandate for Brexit because the majority of people voted for parties who had Brexit in their manifesto.
There's poll after poll after poll that suggests, well, it doesn't suggest, it says it boldly in print, in capital letters, that we do not want, the good people of this country do not want what we've been given. We are very upset. every single poll since January 2020 has said that we do not think that Brexit was a good idea, apart from 2. Now, these polls are taken every 2 weeks. Only, just by a smidgen, two polls in the last 2.5 years have told us that we do not think that it was a good idea to leave the European Union. Currently, it is 47% said we were wrong to leave, and only 39% said that we were right to leave. 13% undecided, they said.
Yes, and the other point is that, of course, in the 2016 referendum, the idea of having a vote on the final deal wasn't defeated because it wasn't on the ballot paper. So they can't argue that there's anything undemocratic about that. It was actually excluded democratically at the time because the 2015 general election had the Conservatives with a majority, and in their manifesto they said that they would have an in-out referendum and implement the result. But, of course, that part of the mandate was revoked by the people in 2017 when they removed the majority the Conservatives had.
Oh, God, they're way too complicated. You've lost me. This is a labyrinthine argument, and I can't follow it because I stopped paying attention after about the first 5 words, and then I couldn't catch up. If you don't pay attention to every single word you say, Mark, then you lose the thread, and then you're off, gone over the horizon. I'll never reach you now. So let's make it more simple. Asked if there was a referendum tomorrow about Brexit, 47% said remain, 38% said leave. I mean, it's overwhelming. This is, and this informs why the people that have brought us all of these lies to get us to vote to leave the EU, they're getting more and more desperate and more angry and piling on the war references to make it appear as though we are actually at war with Europe and the enemy within over this glorious Brexit that is going to be taken from us. But what's glorious about it? Every single thing about Brexit has been a negative. All of it. Every single thing. Pick anything, it's been negative.
But, I mean, how can they negotiate with the EU over Northern Ireland when the EU can see the polls? I mean, the EU are aware of what the polls are saying, and they know that the most popular way of resolving the Northern Ireland situation is to join the single market and the customs union.
I think you are mistaken. They aren't I don't believe they are remotely interested, this government, in solving the Northern Ireland problem or anything else to do with Brexit. They want to keep the problems going so that they can run on the next election by saying, well, the only reason that you haven't got the Brexit that we promised is because the European Union is being mean to us.
Well, if they're going to do something different about the Northern Ireland situation, then what they're proposing is not the Brexit that people voted for in 2019, which means that they're reopening the entire question and making all options available, including membership.
Well, you know that this lot aren't going to do that. I mean, that they would rather die than do that, because this is what defines them. This fantastical promise of this imaginary country with, where everything is like a Disney cartoon, which is just over the horizon. If only the French would stop being mean and evil and jealous.
Yes, well, there is actually one Brexit benefit that somebody pointed out.
Go on.
It used to be the case that if somebody fled a war zone and showed the enterprise and determination to finally get here to a safe place, and presumably after that show great enterprise and determination of being a great citizen after that, then people would send them back to France. But of course, due to Brexit, they can't do that.
Can't do that anymore, yeah. I think that's called irony. Look it up in the dictionary and there'll be a description of what you just said right next to it. Yeah. We used to be able to post people back to France when we were in the European Union, but we can't do that now because we're out of the European Union. Irony alert. All right, thanks a lot, Mark. Asked if people believe that Boris Johnson lied to them about what Brexit would be like. 57% said yes. Liar! Wow. 57% of the people in this country think that the leader of this country lied to them about the most important issue that we have faced in our lifetimes. 57%. And he's still there.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Still there. Asked how the government is handling the issue of Brexit, 59% said badly. 59%. And he's still there. Still there, eh, Bodge? Yeah. Just checking. He's doing his best. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Are you trying to tell me that this is your act?
Yes, I am trying to tell you that. 0345 6060 973. Adrian emails, I went to see the Top Gun film. It was good. Well, what I heard of it. It's the first time I've been to the cinema in 3 years. I went on a Thursday afternoon and the morons behind me were talking non-stop about what shopping they needed and what they were having for their tea. I wanted to kill them, says Adrian. Well, Adrian, I want to kill them too. But you're not allowed to because of the European Union. Tottenham. Hello, George.
Hi.
George.
Hi.
Yes, George.
Are we talking about the fuel crisis? I'd like to talk about that if that's possible.
Oh, of course. Why not?
Let's go for it. You know what's going to happen in 6 or 7 years' time, don't you, Nick?
No.
Well, all petrol and diesel cars are going to be stopped.
Well, not stopped exactly.
Right. But basically...
You mean sales of new ones? They're not going to take the old ones off the road.
Well, I think what they're trying to do is maximise maximum profits on us non-suspecting public, and they're just taking the mickey out of everyone at the end of the day.
Right.
It's just ridiculous, Nick. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, neither do I, so that makes two of us. They're just taking the mick. Well, they're taking as much money as they possibly can, while they can, and once diesel and petrol cars fade away and we're all doing electric, then they'll find a way to charge us the similar amount for using that too. And it'll be a road tax. We'll all be tracked from space, and every single mile that we travel will be charged, and on different rates depending on the time of day and where you drive, I bet you. We'll all be tracked from space, and every time we stray over the speed limit, an amount in fines will be automatically deducted from our bank accounts. All of this to come, George. Exciting times, no?
No.
Not really. The fuel crisis, 6 to 7 years' time. Well, first of all, in 6 to 7 years' time, they'll still be selling petrol and diesel cars because the electric ones will not be they won't be suitable for many people because the range won't be fixed. I mean, we need a revolution in battery technology, and they're trying really hard, but they just can't do it for some reason. I mean, maybe they will in good time. I'm sure the invention will come eventually, like solar power. I mean, that's got to be perfected because it's pretty good, but not as good as it could be. I mean, every single living thing on Earth gets its fresh, delicious power from the sun. Everything. Even things that avoid the sun or don't live in places where the sun reaches, like deep in the ocean. They feed on things that were alive higher up where the sunlight reaches, and they died and they turn into little flakes and they drop down in the bowel of the ocean, and they eat dead skin flates.
Disgusting.
Awful. Get David Attenborough on the phone and he'll explain it to us. I hope that's a full answer to your question there, George. Freddie says, hi Nick, walking to Charing Cross station from work today. I ended up meeting for a second year in a row the naked cycle race.
Oh no.
That was today, was it? Right. Well, fortunately, they didn't seem to close any of London off, although perhaps they should have done.
Disgusting.
Naked cycle race. He said it's slightly disconcerting that so many use the Boris bikes, especially as it was such a warm day. Oh, God. Oh, that is awful, people. You placed your naked area on a bike that other people are going to use? No. Because I was wondering about that, and I thought there's absolutely no way that anyone would have the nerve to borrow a bike and then ride it in the naughty naked nude. But they did. I am stunned. There should be a law about that. Get Priti Patel on the phone as well. She'll have something to say about it. I ended up meeting for a second year in a row the naked cycle race, says Freddie. It's slightly disconcerting that so many use the Boris bikes, especially as it was such a warm day. I hope they hose those bikes down after one of them owes me and one of them owes me an ice cream because I was put off mine, says Freddie. And stop calling them Boris bikes, crying out aloud. And stop calling him Boris. He's not a pet. Andre texts, hi Nick, Aylesbury Friars, great venue. I remember going to see Rory Gallagher back in the early 1980s. Rock and roll! Supported by an up-and-coming band called U2. Oh, U2.
Boring!
Who's on at Glastonbury this year, by the way? Please tell me it's not U2. Who's the big act on at Glastonbury this year? Anybody got any idea? Because it's coming up soon, isn't it? So set your watches by it. It's the longest day, which is also coming up very, very quickly.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the longest day. It must be a couple of weeks away. Not even that. And then it starts to get darker. I mean, it's just awful, isn't it? Time. Somebody needs to slow it down a bit. I bet it's Elbow or somebody really dreary like that. It's not that guy who sings through his nose, is it? Well, I mean, which one? George Ezra. Phil says, dear Nick, Jacob Grease Hog, you're welcome. Well, I'm starting to get a little, like a series of these. Jacob Greased Hog. Any thoughts?
I don't know anything.
No, I don't know anything. Still doesn't know anything. There's also Jacob Me Smug and Jacob Rich Snob. Any thoughts on that one?
I don't know anything.
Still doesn't know anything. Andrea texts, why hitchhiking in Wyoming and not a train or a coach? Did you not have any money? I know it's in the past, but it makes me worry for you when you retell that experience, says Andrea. Well, there's plenty more about that experience that I haven't told you, Andrea. And you'll be, if you knew, then you'd be grateful that I haven't. Yeah, I'll talk about stupid. I was hiking in the middle of America where, apparently, I found out later, a serial killer was operating who was killing hitchhikers. Yes. Didn't realise that at the time. Found out later. I was hitchhiking in Wyoming because I'd left Denver, and this was on a long trip. I was in the States for about 3 months, and I came with a certain amount of money, which seemed like a lot at the time. And with an idea, the only thing I was going to do was go to New York and then make it up from there. And I was going to spend 3 months in the States. And I spent a half of the money that I arrived with in 1 week in New York. On what? I've got no idea. I mean, just to save money, I used to just eat breakfast, and that's it. There was like a typical American diner over the road from the Fleabag hotel that I was staying in which, by the way, somebody died over the corridor on the first night. Terrible place. As I was leaving, the guy at the desk said, when you go out of the hotel, don't turn left, only turn right. Because it was right on the edge of what they call Alphabet City, which is where the roads become Road A and Road B or whatever they're, A and B and C, sort of near the edge of the island. And that way, danger lurked.
Warning, warning.
So only turn right, don't turn left, going out of the hotel. And over the road there was this, this diner, and they served breakfast till 11 in the morning. And so I would go there at like 10 to 11 and order everything because it was so cheap. They were like giving it away. Eggs and hash browns and orange juice and endless like insipid brown water that they call coffee. No, not really. But it was warm. And so I would gorge on that, and that would keep me going for the day, just because I couldn't afford to eat anything else. And so I left there, and I ended up in Denver, and because I had almost no money at all then, and still about another month and a half to go, I thought, well, I better just go to LA, because I've got relatives there. And I couldn't get a trip from Denver to LA, because I was hitching, and somebody said, well, I'm going up a way through the mountains. What are the mountains called in Denver? The Rocky Mountains. So stupid. And so I'm, wearing shorts and a T-shirt and and a backpack with almost nothing in it, and I'm like gladly thumbing my way through the Rocky Mountains. And somebody stopped me and said, you know what, you better turn back because you're going to die. There's bears up there, and it goes to below freezing at night, and about 10 miles up, you'll start to see snow on the ground. And you've got no survival equipment of any kind whatsoever. So you better go back to where you came from and pick another route. And the Rocky Mountains are quite large, so going around them was no small feat. And so that's how I ended up going north, not west. And that's where I ended up in Wyoming, in a place that I swear was called the Redneck Cafe. Tune in next week for the next exciting installment of this quite unbelievable story. It does go on. And I think that's about as much as I can tell you. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
Come on, we're running late.
Billy emails, do you find it quite funny how a lot of Tory MPs now wishing to get rid of Boris Johnson by changing the no confidence vote rules in order to have a second vote were probably the second MPs who told us that they won, that we need to get over it, and that the people have spoken when they tried to explain to us how a second referendum was undemocratic. Well, there's nobody associated with the Brexit vote that wants a second referendum.
We should have a second referendum.
No one at all that comes to mind.
We should have a second referendum.
0345 6060 973. Let's have Southall. Hello, Joshua.
Hey, Nick. I was just looking at Michael Fabricant when you mentioned naked bike ride.
Oh.
Exactly. It's the funniest thing you'll ever see because he's on a Boris bike. He's naked with a tie on.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, there he is in the All Together. And it's altogether the most disgusting thing I've ever seen.
It's true.
It's completely unnecessary. Put something on, Michael Fabricant. No one wants to see that.
No breakfast for me.
Yeah, exactly, yes. All right, thanks a lot, Joshua. I may never eat again. Kate says, if you want big, wide roads with no one on them, stick around for the price of fuel to go up again. Nobody will be able to afford to drive. Be careful what you wish for. You and Steve Allen will be the only ones left. Well, not me. Steve Allen, maybe, although I don't know how he can... I don't know how even he, a plutocrat like Steve Allen, can afford to fill up that giant oligarch's yacht that he calls a car. I mean, it must chew through fuel like an airplane. Or does he get about 1 mile to the gallon? Ollie tweets, having called in, it's a bit sudden just to hear Ollie calls from Brighton and suddenly I've got to speak. Can you ease us into it a bit more? Well, you're hanging on the phone. I do realise that it might come a bit suddenly. But what do you want, like a massage and a cushion? Richmond. Hello, Phil.
Hey, Nick. I just called up to say
I just come back from Costa del Sol in Spain.
Oh, yeah. How was that?
And too hot, 40 degrees.
Too hot.
Nightmare.
Yeah.
But
well, you don't have anything to do when you're on holiday. You're just lying around, having a drink, and you're going from one bar to the next. So how can it be too hot?
Well, 40 degrees is quite hot.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say was, just before we left 2 days ago, there's a big forest fire on the hill next to us.
Oh.
And everyone came up to the top of the hill, my hill, to watch it, right? Huh. And everyone was saying, "Oh, that's Putin's house, right?" So
really?
Putin's got. Putin's got a big mansion.
Has he?
With massive hectares or imperial measures, acres.
Lot of land.
Lot of land. And there's about 6 mansions together. And everyone's saying, that's Putin's house, right? And I checked it out on Google, and it is Putin's house. But
now, wait a minute. How does Google know?
Well, I'm just saying that it is owned by a Russian oligarch.
Okay, then.
And everyone in the neighborhood knows
it's Root and Tootin's place, right?
But then other people started pointing out to a bit over the hill, and that's what we call Bed Abbey, and that's where Zach Johnson has his mansion, where Bojo goes, right?
Right.
So I'm sitting there thinking, oh yes. Could it possibly burn down?
Yeah, blowing those flames that way, right?
Yeah, but I called up the emergency services in Spain, 112. It's like 999.
Yeah,
and they said yes, we know about it. And I said, a friend of mine, that was a lie, because my leader tells me to lie. I said, a friend of mine, Zach Johnson. He's got a house there. Is it okay? And they said, well, most people from Bed Abbey have been evacuated. So I'm thinking, yes. Maybe.
Maybe, just maybe. Fingers crossed.
Just maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I got to say. But
all right,
it
sounds like you
dramatic.
said it. And
So
40 degrees heat. Well, that sounds pretty good to me right now, Phil. That sounds like summer. That does.
But Nick, we don't have air conditioning over there, right? So you can't sleep.
But it doesn't stay 40 degrees at night, does it? I mean, I was just in Madrid. Madrid has to be hotter than Costa del Sol. It has to be.
No, Nick. It dropped at night. It dropped to 38. Okay. So
wow.
You cannot sleep.
Right.
Anyway, love you. Good
okay.
night.
Thanks
Bye.
a lot, Phil. Cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. 40 degrees during the day, 38 at night. That is a little bit too hot. I mean, I don't like air conditioning at all. It just really winds me up. There's nothing about it that I like. But if you put the windows open and the air that's coming in is 38 degrees, that's a little bit too much even for me. It's a no from me. So it's a good job that I'm not going, eh? Tom text, breaking news, super genius Nadine Dorries is going to privatise Prince Charles next. Privatising Prince Charles. Well, he's got it coming. Don't speak out against the regime. Pat tweets, I hope you're sitting down. I have never seen a single episode of Game of Thrones. But since it came up, I had to pass on what the brilliant comedian Stuart Lee called it, Peter Stringfellow's Lord of the Rings. I don't get it. Will texts, Nick, Captain Pugwash ruled the waves. Thanks, says Will. Peter Stringfellow's Lord of the Rings. I don't get it. Is that supposed to be a joke, or is there something I don't get? Am I missing the amusing part? I don't understand. Dale says, it's all my fault, by the way. I take full responsibility. Dale texts, Priti Patel's dad ran as a candidate for UKIP. Madness. Not UKIP and madness. He's saying that it is madness.
We've got a few idiots in our party.
I had no idea.
The arguments that UKIP stands for aren't valid.
Aren't valid, you say? Pauline emails, 1975, Wembley, place rockin' to the Beach Boys. Great atmosphere. Followed by Elton John singing Funeral for a Friend. The whole place was like a wake. Totally killed the mood. Took weeks to recover. What a letdown, says Pauline. Jeff's 1975 Wembley, the beach. Joe Walsh wasn't on that bill, was he? I've never seen Joe Walsh live. I wanted to a lot. Like, he was my first rock hero. Never saw him live. But from memory, I think he might have been on that bill. Jeff says, hey Nick, I'm a London black cab driver who drives up and down Oxford Street nearly every day. More and more I was noticing these American candy shops popping up in prime locations on Oxford Street. I've just seen that now the police are conducting an investigation into these shops. It turns out there are 16 on Oxford Street. I'll be interested to see what they're up to. Yeah, yeah, isn't that weird? Like, suddenly they're everywhere. And it just mystifies me why anybody would want to go into one. I mean, like, there's an M&M store in Leicester Square, London's fashionable Leicester Square. I could spit as far as it is from here. It is so near. And it's 3 floors. I mean, it's like a department store. It's so big, and all they sell is M&Ms. What's that about? Mystifying. Simon, and by the way, you eat a lot of those sugary sweets, and it starts to affect your brain. That's me on them. Simon emails, being Danish, I don't get too many chances to see David Bowie. However, in 2000... Well, I mean, David Bowie wasn't racist. Anybody could have gone to any gig, Simon. He says, however, in 2004, he was scheduled to play the Roskilde Festival, the biggest in Denmark. As luck would have it, he played a concert in Norway the day prior, and a person in the audience threw a lollipop in his good eye. He cancelled the Roskilde gig. The festival booked Slipknot instead.
Oh no!
Now that's not like for like. Slipknot for David Bowie. It's a no from me. And furthermore,
No.
right. Well, I'm sorry I didn't get to the 6 pages of emails. That, I mean, I've been trying. I've been reading them out at some rate this show, but I just couldn't keep up. Couldn't keep up. I take full responsibility. It's all my fault.
I am very sorry that I screwed up.
Totally screwed up. Totally screwed up. Totally screwed up. Totally screwed up. Totally screwed up. Totally screwed up. Totally screwed up. Totally screwed up. Totally screwed up. Totally screwed up. Totally screwed up. Totally screwed up. Totally screwed up. Totally screwed up. Totally Bye.